What's up, duelists? A true hero back with another video. Today, the top 8 deck profile for Deck Devastators 3. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. If you take a look at the deck, it's comprised of exactly 40 cards, 21 monsters, 12 spells, 7 traps. This is a really good ratio for Diva Hero. Hero decks in general don't play a lot of traps, with the exception of Hero Beat, of course. Even when you take a look at modern format heroes don't play any traps at all. So this range of 7 to 9 traps is really efficient for Diva Hero. Now, getting into the monsters, you can see that we play Triple Caius. Caius is a mini boss for this deck, and he is also the most played card in Edison format because he's so good. Removal is especially needed in Edison format. Got a problem with a monster? Caius. Got a problem with a back row? Caius. Though typically when summoning Caius, it's good to target monsters. Anyway, Caius is so good, and there are many ways to summon him easily within Diva Hero. You can go Prodigy into Caius. You can go Goris into Caius, Tragodia into Caius, Brain Control into Caius, Treeborn into Caius. There's so many ways to summon Caius, and his effect has so much versatility in this format. Next up, Card Trooper. Card Trooper is a bit of a double-edged sword because although he's really good, whereas he can mill both your heroes and your warders if you need it, and there was even one game where I played where I went Summon Card Trooper, milled 3, and I milled both Malicious and a Plague, so I was able to make a level 8 Synchro. Still, when Card Trooper mills a spell or a trap, this is where the double-edged sword kicks in, because it gives your opponent too much information about what's in your hand. If you mill, for example, a Heavy Storm, now your opponent's not going to be afraid to set their back rows. If you mill, for example, Goris, now your opponent's not going to be afraid to go all in and attack you. If you mill Brain Control, now your opponents know you're not going to be able to sack them. So although Card Trooper is really good when he mills monsters, when he mills spells and traps, he's not that good. And some monsters, you don't want to be milled. When you mill a Caius, it doesn't really do anything. When you mill a Dark Arm, then you're not getting that card back because you don't have a way to get him back from the graveyard. So Card Trooper, a really good card, but a bit of a double-edged sword. Next up, Dark Arm. Now, Dark Arm Dragon is one of the best, if not the best, boss monster in Edison format. Because when he comes, it's always a surprise. There's been so many games where I'm sure you've played against your opponent and you're thinking to yourself, oh, there's 3 darks in the grave. I hope he doesn't drop Dark Arm. Because Dark Arm is that devastating. When Dark Arm's dropped at the right time, it's just game. 2800, special summon, can clear up to 3 cards on your opponent's side of the field. He's so powerful. And you never know when he's coming. When you're going against, let's say, Lightsworns, you know JD is coming. But Dark Arm, he just comes out of nowhere. And when he comes, he clears the field, and it's usually just game. So Dark Arm definitely should be played in Diva Hero. Next up, Dark Grepher. Now, the thing about Dark Grepher is an amazing card. And I've seen some Diva Hero lists that elect not to play him. If you're going to play Malicious, you need Dark Grepher. Reason being, those sad hands when you pull Double Molly. Double Molly is every Diva player's nightmare because it really limits the plays that you can do. But Dark Grepher is able to make it so that Double Malicious isn't so bad. All you do is summon Grepher, pitch Molly, send Plague with his effect. Stack the second Molly that's in your hand on top of your deck, banish the Molly that you pitched with Grepher's effect in your graveyard to special summon the Malicious that was on top of your deck. Now you can synchro with Plague and Malicious to make a level 8. Thus, Dark Grepher just turned your double Molly into Dark Grepher and a level 8 Synchro. Additionally, if you take a close look at the deck, you see there aren't many ways to discard Malicious. In the main deck, you only have one discard trap, which is Phoenix Wing Blast. So a lot of times Malicious will be in your hand, and Dark Grepher helps by pitching Malicious easily. Moreover, Dark Grepher sets up for what I like to call the Diva Hero OTK. And it's a really simple OTK. All you need is Dark Grepher, Miracle Fusion, a Tuner, and Malicious. So the play goes, pitch Molly, special summon Dark Grepher, summon Diva for Diva, banish Molly for Molly, and make a level 6 and a level 8. Typically you want to make Goyu as your level 6, but you can also make Brio as well. And your level 8, as long as your level 8 has, depending on the circumstance, at least 2,700 points of attack or higher, then it'll be fine. And then you Miracle Fusion and it'll be game. So let's say with this combo you make Brio with attack of 23, Thought Ruler with attack of 27, and then Zero, which will be powered up by Brionic for attack of 3,000. That's exact 8,000 game on board. So this is why Grepher is so good, because not only does he get rid of double Malicious, but he's also an extender, and he's also good at baiting out cards like Bottomless or Torrential. So Dark Grepher, an excellent choice, and if you're going to play Malicious, you need him. Next up, we have the Diva. The Diva, Deep Sea Diva. Of course, triplicates. You need 3 Deep Sea Divas. And honestly, even when you pull multiple in the hands, it's not that bad. Of course, you'd rather only have like one, but if you pull double Diva, as long as Spine Gilman's not chilling in your hand too, then it's not that bad. Because you can go Diva into a level 5, Catastor or Android, and then you can save the second Diva for when you need to make a major synchro play later in the duel. So Diva, a great card. She's a water that gets more waters to help make your Miracle Fusions live. She does it all. Next up, Malicious. Malicious is one of those cards that is so good. Even in modern format today, Malicious is still at 2, because 3 would be cracked. Malicious is great because he sets up for level 8 synchros easily, and even if you don't have a tuner, fodder for Caius. Banish Molly, special summon Molly, sack Caius. Great play. He's a hero. He goes well with Miracle Fusion. Malicious is great. He's that monster. Next up, Streezy, Elemental Hero Stratos. Now, Stratos, one of the best normal summons in Diva Hero. Not only does he search out your heroes, he searches out Prodigy, he searches out Malicious, but also he has an amazing second effect where he has non-targeted destruction. And since it's non-targeted, that means that when you're activating this effect, your opponent must respond once you declare you're activating the pop effect. If they don't respond in that window, once Stratos selects the cards, since it's technically not targeting, they cannot chain it in activation. It's going to get destroyed. And also, let's say you have multiple heroes up on the field, you summon Stratos, you declare the pop effect, but your opponent has Starlight Road set. They cannot activate Starlight Road because it's uncertain how many cards will be destroyed at resolution. So Stratos is so good. He searches out the cards that you need. He destroys cards when needed. He's 18 under attack, which is a really good attack for this format. Stratos he's the best normal summon in Diva Hero. Prodigy. Now, at first glance, Prodigy might not seem much, but actually Prodigy plays a pivotal role in Diva Hero. For one, tribute fodder for Caius. 2, he pairs well with Diva because you can go Prodigy into Diva, Synchro Armory Arm, and already your Miracle Fusion becomes live because you have 2 targets in the grave. And you can even do a Black Rose play. Special Prodigy, normal summon Diva, Diva get Spine Gilman, Black Rose. Or you can do a Brionic or Goyu play. Special summon Prodigy, normal summon Diva, get Diva, Armory Arm, and then Armory Arm into Brionic or Goyu, whichever is needed at the time. And perhaps its most useful use is allowing you to have access to the Colossal Fighter Army Arm OTK, which is not difficult to pull off in this deck at all. All you need is a Malicious in the Grave, Prodigy in your hand, and a Tuner. Special summon Prodigy, banish Mali for Mali, summon Diva, make Diva, bam. Colossal Fighter Army Arm. Just that simple. So Prodigy is really good in this deck. He also helps get rid of Malicious if it happens to be sitting in your hand. Special summon Prodigy, sack for Malicious, and then you can draw a card during your end phase. Excellent, excellent, excellent card. Does well with this deck. Next up, Gores. Gores wins games by himself. So of course, there's no surprise that I'm playing one Gores. Gores, when you have Gores in your hand, you feel safe. You feel like your mother is holding you. You feel like you're about to fight the big kid at school and your brother's right behind you. You just feel so protected. Gores is just that card. And like I said before, he can literally turn the tide of a game by himself. So you definitely need to be playing Gores. Now, here we might have a controversial card in that of Penguin Soldier. And not just because he's so adorable, because Diva decks have not played him. I'm the first one to play him, and I'm going to tell you why I decided to play him. Penguin Soldier is a water version of Fossil Dyna. You flip him up, he returns your opponent's monsters, and you don't even have to worry about cards like Stardust to stop you. However, despite how good Penguin Soldier is, with the ability to return your opponent's monsters, with the ability to break up things like a dupe lock, with the ability to return your own monsters. That way you can return like your Stratos, reuse this effect again. You can return your Caius. And we know how broken returning Caius is because we see it all the time in Frogs, where they go summon Swamp Frog, and then as a cost, they return their Caius back to their hand. It's so good to be able to return your opponent's cards or your cards when need be. But Penguin Soldier's problem is, more often than not, his effect doesn't get much value. What do I mean by that? Well, your opponent won't always have two monsters. And in some cases, the monsters that are on the field, you don't want to return to your opponent's hand. For example, if your opponent has a Stratos on their field because you're going to get hero beat, you don't want to return that. If your opponent has a Gear Frame on the field, you don't want to return that. If your opponent has a Monarch on the field, you don't want to return that. It's like there are so many cards that you don't want to return with Penguin Soldier that often it doesn't get the value that you think it would. So I recommend not playing Penguin Soldier. Now, I was watching Fraser Smith's video where he went over the top 8 deck list for Deck Devastators 3. And there was a comment on his video. And please, if you haven't subscribed to his channel, please do at I Am Nerd Podcast. So there was a comment on his video, which basically, and I'm paraphrasing this comment, said, I never thought I'd see the day where I'd have Penguin Soldier in my TCG cart. Guys, I am not trying to drive up the price of Penguin Soldier, nor am I trying to troll you into playing a bad card. Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. Penguin Soldier is too slow, and he doesn't get the value that you want to get most times. Even when you consider cards like Snowman Eater, I also think Snowman Eater is too slow as well, because when you set monsters in Edison format, good players play around them. There was only one game where Penguin Soldier was even used in my tournament run. And that was in my top 8 match. And in my top 8 match, I'm going against Karina, and I set Penguin Soldier. She goes end phase, activate Scapegoat, and on her turn, she does Substitute Shenanigans and 1-for-1, and then she sacks all for Caius. That is a really good play by her, because good players don't just blindly attack into face down monsters. And that's the problem with Penguin Soldier. That's the problem with Snowman Eater. They're slow, and good players are not going to run into those effects. Going forward, I would suggest anyone who's interested in Diva Hero to play Mystic Tomato instead. Why? Because he has better synergy with the deck. You need a hero? He can get Malicious. He can get Prodigy. You need a water? He can get Sangan. You need fodder? They kill him. Get Sangan, sack him for Caius. You need a tuner? Get Plague. Mystic Tomato has much better synergy with the deck than Penguin Soldier. Penguin Soldier is just a water. Now, one option that you could do is you can side Penguin Soldier for various matchups. But even then, there are better side cards that I'd rather have. I would rather have a Fossil Dyna over a Penguin Soldier. So, you can choose to listen to me, or you can choose to just net deck and blindly follow. But I'm telling you, Penguin Soldier is not the way to go. Next up, Plague. Amazing card. I mean, Plague is like Diva. You can use them twice, but the benefit of Plague is Plague banishes itself, which might sound like a drawback, but then when you consider that we're running Return, it's actually a good thing, because now Plague can be used up to 4 times. So Plague is so good in Diva Hero because 1, naturally you can use it twice, and 2, you can bring back Return. Worst comes to worst, if it's in your graveyard, you can even go stack a card, sack, and summon a Caius. Next up, Sangan. Amazing searcher. It gets the majority of your deck. And if you need a hero for your Miracle Fusion, it gets a hero. You need a water for your Miracle Fusion, it gets a water. Great card. Only card that would be better, of course, would be Witch of the Black Forest, but that's banned, so we're sticking with Sangan. Next up, we have Spined Gilman. Now, the thing about Spined Gilman is me and him, we have a love-hate relationship. Love because when I don't draw him, he does so well with Deep Sea Diva. But when I draw him, which is more than half the time, I'm just so sad. But the thing about Spined Gilman is he's so bad that he's good. Because if you summon Spined Gilman, your opponent doesn't want a Torrential Spined Gilman. Your opponent doesn't want a Mirror Force Spined Gilman. So what often happens is Spined Gilman beatdown. And you just wind up beating down your opponent with a Spined Gilman until later you can synchro with it or sack it for Caius or do something with it. So not only that, but Spined Gilman's effect is actually really good because it powers up every single water monster in your deck except Absolute Zero, including Brionic. So even your Brionic can go up to 2,700. Your Diva goes to 600. Your Treeborn goes to 500. Spined Gilman is really good and really bad. So you can see why I have a love-hate relationship with him. Then we have Tragodia. Now, the thing about Tragodia is Tragodia plays perfect with the playstyle of this deck. In Diva Hero, you want to draw into your good cards and OTK them. But while you're drawing, sometimes you will be defenseless. So Tragodia not only adds that extra layer of defense along with Gores, but also he allows a permanent brain control. There's so many different levels of monsters in this deck. You play level 1, you play level 2, you play level 3, you play level 4, you play level 6, you play level 7. So you can take your opponent's monsters easily. And in addition to that, he also provides you as a pseudo level 6 or whatever level you need him to be. Remember, Malicious is at 2 and Tragodia can be your 3rd Malicious in a sense by turning himself into level 6. And you have 5 targets. You have triple Caius, double Malicious. So Tragodia is really good for synchro summoning, really good for the general strategy of the deck, which is drawing and passing. And he's also good at defending your life points and taking your opponent's monsters. So excellent card. Highly recommend playing Tragodia. Next up, Treeborn Fog. Treeborn, just a great general water monster. And I've been saying this a lot, but excellent tribute fodder for Caius. Not only that, when you have Treeborn on the field, it allows you to make level 6s with Diva. You can go Diva and the Spined Gilman, and then with Treeborn, that's 6. So it's really easy to make cards like Brionic and Goyu. And when you have nothing else, Treeborn is defending your life points. So Treeborn, excellent card, and with that, that'll actually complete the monsters of Diva Hero. Now onto the spells. As you can see here, there are only 12 spells. So starting off at number 1, Allure. Great card because it allows you to draw into your deck so you can get the combo pieces that you need in order to OTK your opponent. Not only that, but the secondary part of Allure where you must banish a dark problem isn't even a problem because Diva Hero plays so many different dark monsters, and every dark monster that you banish, with the exception of Dark Arm, has an opportunity to come back into play with Return from a Different Dimension. So Allure, great card. Next up, we have Brain Control. Brain Control is a stupidly good card. There are some boards that can only be broken with the help of Brain Control, and the cost of paying 800 is nothing. Brain Control is just one of those cards where if you're not playing this in your deck, you simply don't want to win. So that's all I can say for Brain Control. Future Fusion. Now, of course, Future Fusion is absolutely needed in Diva Hero because it jumpstarts the engine of Absolute Zero by sending both a water and a hero while also summoning Absolute Zero in 2 turns. However, Future Fusion is not as broken in Absolute Zero compared to other decks. Like, let's say dragons. When dragons open up Future Fusion, you're in for a bad time. But Future Fusion is only exceptionally good in Absolute Zero under certain conditions. You need Future Fusion, a tuner, and Malicious to not be in your hand in order to get the most value out of it. Because let's say you open up Future Fusion and Mali, then now you can only send a water and a hero. Let's say you open up Future Fusion without a tuner. Now you can send Mali, you can send Treeborn, but your Malicious kind of just sits there and you can't bring back your Treeborn. Of course, if you have Caius, then you can still make plays with that. So, Future Fusion, excellent card, definitely needed in Absolute Zero, but you see the most value when you have Malicious in your deck and a tuner in your hand. Then you can go Stardust and set some back rows behind it, and that game becomes pretty hard to lose. Next up, we have Double Gold Sark. Gold Sark is the perfect card for this deck because it mitigates all the problems that Diva Hero has. Diva Hero suffers from inconsistent hands. Therefore, with Gold Sark, you can get the piece out of your deck that you need to make your hand consistent. More often than not, you want to search the limited cards, such as Future Fusion, or Heavy Storm, or even Return from a Different Dimension, or Dark Arm Dragon. These are the cards that are really going to turn the tide of the game into your favor. And Future Fusion is good because, Sarking rather, is also good because you can Sark for a monster and then bring it back with Return from a Different Dimension. So one common play can be Sark for Plague, activate Return, bring back Plague, synchro with the Plague, and now you're in a great position. So rather than waiting 2 turns, you got immediately value off of it because you had Return set. So Gold Sark, great card, fixes a lot of the problems that Diva Hero has. Next up, Heavy Storm. Now, it goes without saying that you should be playing Heavy Storm. Heavy Storm is one of those cards where it can just completely blow your opponent out the water. However, Heavy Storm is not one of those cards that you should just play recklessly, because a good player will not be hit by Heavy Storm hard, because good players generally only set about 1, at most 2 back rows if they haven't seen Heavy Storm played. Also, good players will set multiple black rows only if they have a Dark Bribe or a Solemn, or worst case scenario, a Starlight Road set. So Heavy Storm is an excellent card, but just make sure you use it wisely and not just blindly. Next up, we have Mind Control. Mind Control, this card is ridiculously broken. And in some cases, better than Brain Control. Because you can take face down monsters. Imagine this scenario. You play Mind Control, you get your opponent's face down Raikou, you flip up their Raikou, you destroy one of their cards, and you synchro with the Raikou. Now your opponent is just so sad. So Mind Control, it does it all. And in this meta of Edison, the top decks being frogs, Mind Control works perfect. Because you can Mind Control one of their dupes, and then it breaks up their dupe lock. And then that leads into what you can do with the next card on the list, Miracle Fusion. Mind Control Miracle Fusion, an amazing combination in this metagame. Mind Control an opponent's hero monster, Mind Control an opponent's water monster, Miracle Fusion. Now they lost their monster and you brought out your best card, Absolute Zero. The namesake of the deck is Absolute Zero. Therefore, you should be playing no less than 3 Miracle Fusions. Yes, sometimes they can double up in your hand, and it doesn't feel good unless you have a Future Fusion played. But still, Miracle Fusion is so good because Absolute Zero, when played, can net you so much advantage that it's worth playing 3 of them. So Miracle Fusion at 3, without a shadow of a doubt. Next up, MST. Of course, MST is needed because Absolute Zero struggles from back rows. Cards like Royal Oppression or Torrential. So MST gets rid of these problematic cards, along with any other card that might disrupt your OTK or your pushes. And last but not least, Rhoda. Now, the thing about Rhoda is, if you look closely at the deck, there's only 2 targets, Stratos and Grepher. Nevertheless, it's worth playing Rhoda just for these 2 targets alone, because Stratos is the best normal summon in the deck, and Grepher sets up for a lot of OTKs. So you need Rhoda in order to access the crucial parts of your deck. Now, if you look at the spell lineup, there's one spell that is missing, and that is Destiny Draw. I've ran this deck and tested many different variants, and I can firmly say Destiny Draw is not the way to go. And I've even run it with Gold Sark, and even with just double Malicious as your only target. So let's assuming you're not running bad cards like Diamond Dude or Dasher or Defender. Let's assume you're only running double Malicious, right? You have many targets. You have double Mali, you have Sangan, you have Stratos, you have Rhoda, you have double Gold Sark. All of these will make your D-Draw and Tamale play successful. However, when you play D-Draw, then it forces you to do bad plays, such as when you play Future Fusion, you might not send the Malicious because you don't want your Destiny Draw to be dead. Now, of course, you can play other Destiny heroes, like I said, Dasher or Diamond Dude, but those are bad cards, and it's not worth playing bad cards to make Destiny Draw live. So overall, do not play Destiny Draw because it's too inconsistent. And that wraps it up for the spells. On to the traps. Now, if you notice, I'm only main decking 1 Bottomless. Reason being, Bottomless is a great card, but it's not good in every matchup. Some matchups, Bottomless can just be dead. Moreover, even in matchups where Bottomless is good, Bottomless doesn't do anything if your opponent already has an established board. Unlike Torrential, which is always live, because even if your opponent elects not to summon anymore, you can always summon to trigger your own Torrential and clear your opponent's board. Bottomless doesn't work that way. Therefore, 1 Bottomless is enough. Also, you don't want to open up multiple Bottomlesses because it doesn't give your deck any offensive presence. So you don't want to be in too much of a defensive state. So 1 main deck Bottomless is good enough. And then matchups where you need the second Bottomless, you side it in. And matchups where you don't need the second Bottomless, or the first Bottomless rather, you side it out. Next up, Mirror Force. One of the best traps in the format, yet it's not played in a lot of the top decks. When we look at decks like Dragons and Frogs and Light Swarms, they're not playing traps. So they're not utilizing cards like Mirror Force. But in a deck like Absolute Zero, which can make Stardust Dragon, Mirror Force is really good Because Stardust back behind a Mirror Force is a very hard combination to get over. Of course, Brain Control, one of the most nutty cards in the format, can out that, but there are very few cards that can out Stardust Mirror Force. Next, we have Wing Blast. Now, I've tested both Wing Blast and Regeki Break, and both have their pros and cons. However, Wing Blast is a better going first card. However, in some matches, you should definitely side it out. Because the problem with Wing Blast, unlike Regeki Break, Wing Blast doesn't get rid of the problem. Let's say your opponent summons Caius. You don't want to Wing Blast a Caius. Let's say your opponent flips up Royal Oppression. Yes, you can Wing Blast Oppression and temporarily get rid of the problem, but I hope all your special summoning's done that turn, because they're going to draw Oppression again. So Wing Blast doesn't get rid of the problem, unlike Regeki Break. But the option to set your opponent back a turn is also so powerful as well. So in certain matchups, you keep it. In certain matches, you side it up. And the reason why we only play one Wing Blast is because, as I might have said before, it's fairy tale land, right? If you are living in a world where you think playing multiple discard traps are going to work for your two targets, your Malicious and your Treeborn, you're truly living in a fairy tale. It's not going to work like that, because when you need Malicious and Treeborn the most, where are they going to be? In your deck. They're not going to be in your hand. So saying, oh, I'm going to Rhoda for Stratos and add Malicious and set Wing Blast or Regeki Break, yeah, it's nice. But in reality, it doesn't happen like that. So one Wing Blast or one Regeki Break is good enough. Wing Blast is definitely better when you're going first. Next up, we have Return from a Different Dimension. If I could only play one trap in this deck, without a shadow of a doubt, it would be Return. Return synergizes so well with this deck because you naturally banish a lot of cards. You banish cards with Allure, you banish cards with Gold Sark, you banish cards with Miracle Fusion. It's so easy to have a very large banish zone. And when you think about this format, Monster Reborn is banned. Call It a Haunted is at 1. And Return is like Call It a Haunted and Monster Reborn on crack, because you can get up to 5 monsters back. And the cost, it's like nothing, right? You'll always have the cost to pay for Return. So Return is an absolutely amazing card and the best trap card in the deck, hands down. Next up, Solemn, the Say No card. Your opponent does something you don't like, Solemn. They play a spell, they play Brain Control, Solemn. They play a trap, they play Return, Solemn. They try to scoop, Solemn. Solemn just says no to everything. So for sure, you want to play the one Solemn. Then we have Torrential. Torrential is good because it clears the board and it allows you to play conservatively. Opponents fear Torrential. So if they already have a monster on board, if you're going against a good opponent, they're not going to keep summoning to walk into a Torrential. And because they're not going to keep summoning, it gives you time to draw into your combo pieces. So Torrential is an excellent card because it clears the board and it gives you time, which is what you need for Diva Hero. And last but not least, Trap Dust Shoot. One of the most busted traps in the format because it gives you so much knowledge on your opponent's hand. And not only does it give you knowledge, but it allows you to send back their most useful card, which can make their hand completely dead. Now, as busted as Dust Shoot is, in games 2 and 3, you may want to consider siding it out depending on the matchup. Let's say you're going against Hero Beat, right? If you're going second, you probably want to side that out. If you're going against Black Wings, if you're going second, you probably want to side that out. But if you're going against Frogs, they're always going to have a big hand size. If you're going against Gadgets, they're always going to have a big hand size. So depending on the matchup, you should elect to keep it or not. But overall, Trap Dust Shoot, absolutely broken card. And when it resolves, you are in a really good situation. So that does it for the traps. So next we're going to move on to the side and extra deck. Okay, so for the side deck, we have double DD Crow, double Fossil Dyna, Vanities, Nobleman, double Smashing, Bottomless, Deck Devi, double Dust, double Light Mirror, and Starlight Road. Now, double DD Crow goes without saying. Most of the top decks are all siding DD Crow. It's so good because it catches your opponent off guard. Your opponent goes Pot of Avarice, Crow. Your opponent tries to bring back Treeborn, Crow. Your opponent tries to bring back Plague, Crow. Crow is so good, and he has a great surprise factor behind him. Next up, Fossil Dyna and Vanities. These are both great cards because they shut down special summoning. So generally, you want to summon them after you already have an established board and you're pushing for game. But even if you don't have an established board, just these cards by themselves are often good enough to win you the game by themselves, depending on the matchup. Against Frogs, for example, they have a really hard time outing Fossil Dyna. Fossil Dyna, even though he has a very weak attack, one, his effect's really good. When he's flipped face up, he'll destroy all the special summon monsters. And two, decks that rely on special summoning get over strong monsters by special summoning, and weak monsters too. So those pieces are really small, and Fossil Dino can usually run over a lot of them. So if you're in a situation where you have Fossil Dino or Vanities back behind like a Bottomless or a Mirror Force, you're in a really good situation. So Fossil Dino, excellent against any deck that special summons a lot. Same with Vanities. They're two great cards. There's even a point where I was main decking Vanities Fiend when I came in 9th place in one of the previous tournaments. I was running double Caius, main decking one Vanities. And time told me that that was not the right decision to do. It's better to just main deck triple Caius because Vanities can be a little conflicting at times, especially with cards like Future Fusion in your deck. But still, great card, definitely deserves a spot in the side deck. Next up, we have Nobleman. Now, nothing makes a zero player sadder than making the absolute zero, attacking the face down, and then the face down flips, and it's none other than Raikou, the Lightsworn pup. Losing your big bad absolute zero to a little puppy, it's depressing. It's really depressing. And this is why Nobleman is in the side. Nobleman gets rid of Hamster, Spy, Raikou, lots of problematic cards, even floaters. Nobleman, great card, has definitely held the test of time, and it's great. Now, double smashing, some might wonder why. Why a true hero are you siding double smashing? Well, that's easy. Because smashing gets rid of a lot of problematic cards that Absolute Zero can deal with, but is better off not dealing with. Cards like, for example, Christia. If my opponent has Christia up on the board and I don't already have a zero, Christia is going to give me a hard time. But not only Christia, it's also good against strong monsters like Dark Creator. Dark Creator, gone. Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, gone. And even in one of my matches in my tournament run, I smash and ground a Red Eyes Darkness Metal. And also against Fortress as well. Fortress is a very problematic card because you don't want to target it with Caius because you'll drop a card out of your hand. And it can crash with Zero and then destroy another one of your cards. And it can crash with Stardust and kill another one of your cards. But Smash and Ground just gets rid of the problem without any issue. So great card in the side deck. And moving on. Bottomless. So I already went into detail about why I side one Bottomless. So I'll just explain the matchups where two Bottomlesses are good. Double Bottomless is good against Black Wings for sure and Gladiator Beasts, as well as Lightsworns. These decks all play monsters with really high attack points that they like to normal summon. So you definitely want to side in Bottomlesses against those matchups. Now, Deck Devi. Perhaps one of my favorite traps I have in the side deck. If you successfully resolve Deck Devi against the right deck, it's just going to be game. More devastating than Crush Card Virus at times. Because a lot of decks are aiming to make synchros and combos with their smaller monsters. So if you Deck Devi, then they can kiss their monsters goodbye. And the interesting thing about Diva Hero is one of the few decks that can make a first turn live Deck Devi. Not even Black Wings. What I mean by that is, with Black Wings, they cannot summon Sirocco the first turn because they need you to have a monster. Nor can they just summon a monster and collude for no reason. So Black Wings generally can only have a live deck Devi after turn 2. Of course, there are rare cases where they can like summon a Black Wing and make a first turn Armor Master or Arm Wing, but it's very rare for them to do that just to deck Dev you. Diva Hero, on the other hand, can make a deck Devi off of one card. Summon Diva, get Spine Gilman, make Catastor, sec Devi, and then it's live. There was even a game in real life where I did that exact play, and my opponent goes Brain Control on Catastor, and I flip Deck Devi, and the game was over right there from that moment. So Deck Devi, an amazing card. Generally, when I side in Bottomless, I side out Deck Devi. I keep it sided out. And when I side in Deck Devi, I side out my Bottomlesses, right? Because they're conflicting. One hits 1500 or higher, the other one hits 1500 or lower. Anyway, great card. If your deck can support it, definitely recommend playing it, especially in Diva Hero. Double Dust. Now, the reason for Double Dust over more popular back row destruction cards such as Bait Dow or Nobleman of Extermination is because those cards do not hit the problem cards for Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero struggles against cards like Royal Oppression, Macro, Defissure. Bait Dow can't hit those. Nobleman of Extermination can't hit those. So this is why you need Double Dust, because you never know when you're going to play against a rogue deck or a Blackwing deck maining Oppression, and you're going to need these Double Dust Tornadoes. And not only does Dust Tornado hit face up spell and traps, but they also hit face down. So they're really versatile. And don't forget about the second effect of Dust Tornado as well, which allows you to set a spell or trap from your hand. So that can be really, really useful. Like, let's say if you're scared of Heavy Storm, you can dust your opponent's back row, and then you can set like one of your spells and traps, like a trap preferably, right? And then on your turn, you can activate that trap. So you can activate like your Wing Blast that you just set, or you can activate your Return that you just set, or your Solemn that you just set. So it's really, really useful. Definitely a great card. Next, Double Light Mirror. The reason why we're playing Double Light Mirror is because in this Edison meta, light monsters are killing it. Chaos Fairies recently won the event, and Fairies also have been doing very well, and Light Swarm. Many, many, many Edison tournaments have been topped by light monsters and light decks. So you need to be playing Double Light Mirror. It's so important in decks that can support them, because if activated at the right time, it shuts down those light decks and they can't even do anything to stop it. Last but not least, we have Starlight Road. The reason for Starlight Road is because it's really good against some problematic matchups like Black Wings and Gladiator Beasts. If the opponent goes Icarus Attack, Starlight Road. If the opponent goes Geyserius, Starlight Road. And usually, when you successfully resolve a Starlight Road, that's just game, because you generated so much advantage from 1, stopping their destruction effect, and 2, making a Stardust that Starlight Road will just seal you the game from there. So that's the side deck, and on to the extra deck. And that brings us to the extra. Triple Absolute Zero. Of course. He's the namesake of the deck. But I'm not going to lie. It is a little sad because the top decks, such as Frogs or Hero Beat, are playing Absolute Zero better than Absolute Zero decks. Now, yes, Hero Beat is technically a hero deck, but it's not called Absolute Zero. Same thing in modern format too, right? When DPE first came out, all of the top decks were using DPE better than heroes were. So I don't know, maybe it's just the curse of being a hero player. But nevertheless, Triple Absolute Zero, absolutely broken. If I were to make a top 10 problematic card, Absolute Zero would definitely be on my list, because in most cases, your opponent has to use a lot of resources in order to get rid of him. And in that case, Absolute Zero, he did his job. Next up, Catastor. Great card, out to a lot of problems, 22 attack, solid attack, and also great for deck Devi, as I explained earlier. In Diva Hero, it's really easy to make level 5s. Catastor, great synchro. Armory Arm. Now, Armory Arm is here because he allows plays for Colossal Armory Arm. Not only that, but when you only have a Diva and a Prodigy, you need him in order to make your Miracle Fusion live. Summon Prodigy, Summon Diva, Synchro, Armory Arm. You can also use Armory Arm as just a level 4 monster to make your Bryonic, to make your Goyu. So Armory Arm has a lot of utility in this deck, more so than just Colossal Armory Arm OTK, but also serving as Synchro fodder for Bryonic and Goyu, and he's just a good card. Black Rose. Black Rose, necessary in every extra deck because he just clears the field. There's a problem card on the field, Black Rose, the problem is gone. And this is why I mentioned earlier why I would replace Penguin Soldier with Mystic Tomato, just to have that option to use Black Rose's second effect if necessary. But anyway, Black Rose, great card. Easy to summon in Diva Hero, special summon Prodigy, normal summon Diva, get Spine Gilman, Synchro, Black Rose, blow up. Next up, the MVP Synchro of the deck, Bryonic Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Now, it's funny that he's called a dragon because his type is actually Sea Serpent. But that works in Absolute Zero player's favor because he gets the 400 boost from Spine Gilman, bringing him up to 27. But let's just imagine a scenario where Bryonic was actually a dragon and not a Sea Serpent. He'd be problematic. Dragons bringing back Bryonic. The quick draw deck able to make Bryonic. He would just be banned so quickly. I mean, ultimately he did get banned, but thankfully in Edison format, he's not banned. And thankfully, when Konami decided to make this guy, they made him as a Sea Serpent and not a dragon. Next, we have Colossal Fighter. He's not Subpar Fighter, he's Colossal Fighter. Great effect, often comes out at 29 because you're usually going to make him with a Malicious. Really good against light decks. Not being able to really be destroyed by battle goes a long way. And also, he's just a strong dark monster. Really good because this deck plays a decent amount of warriors, and a lot of decks also play a decent amount of warriors as well. So, Colossal Fighter, he's out there doing it. Dark End Dragon. Now, it's really good to live in a world where we can actually use Dark End Dragon. Because in proper Edison format, nobody had Dark End Dragon because it was a Shonen Jump prize card. But now, of course, Dark End has been reprinted several times, so now we all have access to Dark End Dragon. So it's nice. It's nice to be able to play with him. Moreover, Dark End Dragon helps with a lot of problems that Diva Heroes has, being an option to deal with face-down monsters. Your opponent has Raikou, Dark End. Your opponent has Pyramid Turtle, Dark End. So, excellent card, and he's a dark, so you can tribute him all for Deck Devi. Goyu. I do not know what Konami was thinking when they were making level 6 Synchro monsters. This guy is just so good. Imagine Goyu Guardian didn't even have effect. He was just a 28 vanilla 6-star monster. He would still be good because 2800 is ridiculously high attack. And he has a broken effect. He just takes your opponent's monsters. And you know he's going to beat him because he has an attack of 28. So Goyu Guardian absolutely busted. I mean, I guess that's why they had to errata him, right? So now you need an Earth Tuner and a non-Earth Tuner monster. But in Edison format, he's just a generic 6. Magical Android, excellent card. Sometimes more useful than Catastor. It really just depends on the scenario. She's really good if you have a Diva in your hand and you just need to put a monster on the board. The 600 points during the end phase goes a long way. And if you can pair up with Thought Ruler, you can even gain 1200 during the end phase as well. So, excellent card. Definitely deserves her spot in the extra deck. Next, Red Dragon Archfiend. Now, Red Dragon, he's strong. He's 3k. He's naturally the strongest monster in the extra deck. And his effect's pretty good too, right? Because he deals with face-down monsters. Unfortunately, he doesn't deal with flip effect monsters, so things like Raikou and Snowman Eater, though he's not technically a flip effect monster, he struggles with those. But if used correctly, he can still be a threat to those monsters. Because let's say your opponent has a face down Pyramid Turtle. And I always go to Pyramid Turtle because I love Pyramid Turtle. Anyway, so your opponent has a face down Pyramid Turtle. You attack the Pyramid Turtle. And then it'll get flipped up. But then due to Red Dragon's Archfiend's effect, it's going to get destroyed. And your opponent's not going to be able to search. And they'll lose all their other defense position monsters like their Raikos or whatever else they have set. So excellent card, but be cautious when you play it, because if you're making it just for damage and you push for game against, let's say, frogs, and you drop a Battle Fader, then you're in big trouble. Because all your monsters that didn't attack, they're going to get destroyed during the end phase. Next up, Double Stardust. Stardust, amazing card. Another one of the top synchro monsters of the format. The only reason why we play 2, though, is because we're main decking Starlight Road. Not main decking, but side decking Starlight Road. And there are times where you resolve Starlight Road and you get what I like to call a fake Stardust Dragon. And this fake Stardust Dragon is good, but once you get one negate, it can't revive itself because it wasn't properly synchro summoned. So in those rare cases, you might want to make a real Stardust, so therefore Double Stardust. And last but not least, Thought Ruler Archfiend. Absolutely great card, especially when cards like Mirror Force and Torrential have been already extinguished. Then Thought Ruler can just reign supreme, right, if he doesn't get bottomless. So he's really good because he stops that annoying brain control. You don't have to worry about him being mind controlled, D-Prison, Wing Blast, Book of Moon, enemy controller. Like, he just stops so many problematic cards. And you can gain life points with him. You destroy a big monster, bam, fuel up, drink your Gatorade. So Thought Ruler, definitely great monster and deserves his place in the extra deck. So if that's done, now we've gone through the main deck, the side deck, and the extra deck. Let me just give my closing thoughts on Diva Hero and its place in the meta. Overall, I think Absolute Zero is a really good deck to play. It's one of those decks that's both fun and competitive. However, it's a really skill-intensive deck because you're going to get a lot of awkward hands. What do I mean like that? Hands with Future Fusion and Malicious. Hands with double Malicious. Hands with Caiuses and not being able to sacrifice them. Hands with Miracle Fusion and no targets to banish like Warders or Heroes. So you get a lot of inconsistent hands with Diva Hero. However, if you stick to the strategy of drawing and passing and bluffing at the right times, eventually you're going to be able to play it out of these really poor hands and make really good plays. Moreover, Diva Hero is one of those decks that's really hard to side against. There's no one card, with the exception of Royal Oppression, that single-handedly destroys Diva Hero. And even Royal Oppression is situational. Because if you already have an established board, then Royal Oppression isn't going to do much, right? However, cards like DD Crow, which are commonly sided against Diva Hero, because Miracle Fusion banishes at resolution, as long as you have multiple targets, DD Crow doesn't do anything, right? Tuner Scheme, the deck doesn't rely on tuners. Thunder King Ryo, Absolute Zero comes out through Miracle Fusion, so you can't tribute Ryo. So a lot of the cards that people tried to stop Absolute Zero with are very situational. So it's a great deck, has a lot of power, and I definitely recommend all those listening to it to give it a shot. But, don't give up if you get a bad hand or two. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you have any questions on tech choices, or if you want to play Diva Hero and you just want to talk to me about it, please comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really goes a long way. It lets me know you appreciate these videos that I'm putting out. I put a lot of effort and time into making them. And with that said, guys, take care. A True Hero out.